the iPhone, a device that revolutionized the world. It also revolutionized how we take pictures. People can now just take out their cellular device and then at a click of a virtual button, they have a picture with full color and very high quality stuff. We didn't even start with full color. That was not even invented until 1970. And we didn't even have those easy to use file formats until like 1999. And we didn't even have instant cameras. That was like in 1945. And yeah, cameras have evolved, and there's actually much more to that. So this is the history of cameras. The first camera was invented in 500 BC. It wasn't really a camera, it really didn't capture much, and it was just a black and white picture, and you can barely see anything because it had to be in a very dark room. And yeah, we're gonna skip to 1888, where the first Kodiak camera was invented. It was a pretty revolutionary tech that would change the game of photography. And one thing that made it easier was the taking picture part. At a click of a button, it would take a picture, no other things needed, and after that it gets sent to a factory to formulate. And yep, it was pretty easy. It was actually marketed as a camera for beginners to photography, and yep, it was pretty revolutionary, but it was super bulky. Like, no one wants to carry around a very bulky camera. So this is where the next invention came in. At the start of the 20th century, a new type of camera got introduced, the 35mm camera. Utilizing the 35mm film, these cameras had a smaller form factor. Oscar Barnack created the Lesia camera. This camera was the first of its kind. It utilized 35mm film, and it was easier to change the aperture and shutter speed. It utilizes a mirror system instead of the bulky fixed lens, the Kodiak. And basically, these cameras work by reflecting light from the scene using lens onto a mirror, which in turn reflects the image through a prism and into the viewfinder. When the shutter is released, the mirror flips up, allowing light to directly reach the film or digital. Hopefully my mic doesn't cut out again. So, the instant camera is a piece of technology that is still being used today. People still like buying those cameras due to the nostalgic feel. Like, I have one in my house right now. I'll probably pull up a picture of it. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And it was also super popular back then. So basically, in an instant, you take the picture, it gets printed out on a film. Like, old cameras did not have that. It was pretty revolutionary. It was basically super good for people who just want to take normal pictures, like normal families. And yeah, the Model 95 was like the most known first camera to be instant, and it wasn't really that popular until the 1970s. And you can see that 47% of the population had it. Like, it was super popular. And yeah, basically, it works by the film having the necessary camera chemicals to work. And basically, when light, those chemicals are very reactive light. So when it touches the light, they get cultured, and then so the image is on the film. And yeah, and then in 1963, Polaroid invented the polar color pack film, basically the first color film. But digital cameras were catching on fast, and the next section will cover that. The first digital camera was created by an employee at Kodiak, and basically it uses VHS tapes to capture and store images. And yeah, it was super big. No one wanted to use that, so that's why it never went to sale. And it would take 20 seconds to even take a picture, and it would have a 0.01 megapixel lens, aka the iPhone has 4,800 times that amount. And yeah, after that, a new invention was created, the CCD, or the charge coupled device. It was a sensor that sits behind the lens that basically converts like the light into digital stuff, so digital cameras can use to store. And yeah, in the first fully digital camera was DS1P. It would never went to sale, and yeah, it also used an SD card, and it wasn't very a SD card. It was like a SD RAM, and it only had 16 megabytes of storage, and it would never go to sale. But something that went to sale was the Logitech Photoman. It was like the DS1P, but went to sale. And instead of using SD card, it connects to the computer. And the computer was pretty new at the time, so it would. That's one of the reasons why cameras have changed. Because yeah, in 1992, a new invention was invented. Before that, there wasn't any like image format for static images that was very high quality. And in 1992, MPEG and JPEG were created. These file formats were a big thing due to them being static and helped cameras store more images because they didn't really take that much size. Like PNGs these days, at average takes 2 megabytes, and most like SD cards at that time used at least 32 gigabytes. And yeah, and at around this time, Apple was coming less and less like popular, and they were becoming bankrupt. And they did the only thing they could do to save the business: make a camera. Yes, they made a camera. What the heck? They made the Apple QuickTake, and it was super overpriced. Cough, cough, cough. And at the time, they had bad image quality, and they would later discontinue it the year Steve Jobs came back. In 1999, the CEO Kira digital phone VP210 was released. You might think, why would I care about a random phone that was released? Well, it had a camera, a front and back camera, and it could take video calls. Like $19.99 for video calls is crazy. Like FaceTime these days is like super popular, but back then that would be revolutionary. Like seeing your family member. One new feature that camera had was a CMOS image sensor. A CMOS image sensor, complementary metal oxide semiconductor, converts light into a digital image by using a grid of millions of tiny pixels, each containing a photodiode or an amplifier. When light hits a photodiode, it generates an electrical charge and is amplified and converted into a digital value by using an analog to digital converter. This process allows the sensor to capture and store images to digital cameras. And yeah, it helped them invent the SD card that was invented in 1999. They use NAND chips to store data, and yeah, they can work when the power's off, so that's pretty useful. They released in 1999, and yeah, and micro SD card released in 2005, and there's many more variants of it, but we're gonna skip 2007, when Apple was making iPhone. iPhone was a revolutionary device that basically changed photography forever. The iPhone 1 didn't really have a great camera, but today they have great cameras. Like, so many movies were basically filmed with it, and many photographers use it, and it's basically so good. And we still have a long journey to go with cameras. And yeah, this is the history of cameras.